Ballard back, fresh off Trump's speech last night. He got motivated. I'm motivated. He put together an incredible presentation that I think is going to be monumental in changing everybody's view of going forward. And Larry, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So this, I mean, right from the get-go, this slide it pretty much says it all. So let's walk into it.
Okay. So basically what you're seeing here is an event that's been triggered that is going to change the world. It's going to lead us into an understanding of the stewardship of the planet, where we're going to understand that we're walking into a time when resource conservation is going to be crucial to the entire world. Oil has been shown to be the lifeblood of the world with everything that happened with Iraq. So we're going to have to get less dependent on that, and things are going to happen that's going to cause that to happen. If we look at what's happening in the Middle East over there, their aquifers are drying up. Aquifers around the world are drying up. We're likely to have wars in the Middle East in particular over water. And then when we go over to the next box, we've got natural resources, critical resources that we have to share with all the nations of the world. And silver, for example, is going to be crucial. It's not considered to be a critical resource. And then when you get over to the other side, the thing, in my opinion, most likely to trigger World War III, if we have it, and I don't think we will, is what you're looking at right there with the silicon chips, because we found out last night that our principal enemy, other than people in our own government, is China, who basically bought and paid for a lot of the people that are in our government on the three-letter agencies and our Congress and our Senate, etc. And so here is what's changed. Now we're going to have to understand and face the reality that we have to pay attention to these things, because we're on top of that, something else is happening that I know you've talked about. Serious climatic changes due to warming. The storms that are coming are more severe. You put all that together and we're in a tipping point. But so now it's only not only that we have to change because of these things, but it's also because we now understand who our enemy is and what that's going to do to force changes upon us. So let's go on down to the next slide. And please, Michael, I know with your background, with you being a seer, you see a lot of the things I do. So you just chime in and talk over me anytime you want to say something. So basically, this is the book.
Your book, as we're showing here, is a fantastic book. Like all the information you reveal, or that has been revealed to you, and you channel it through. It is a fantastic book. So highly recommend it. And of course, I'm wearing your shirt. I got your Liberty mug. It's massive because we need a lot of stimulation. I have green tea in here. That's the stimulation I get. But so it is fantastic. So
thanks for the plug. Well, all I'll say is, if you want to buy the book, just click on that QR code. But for those who aren't ready to buy it, you can get a free chapter that'll give you a little bit of an idea of what's in the book. Here we go. We're getting down now into something, and a loop is closing. And that loop started in the 1960s, somewhere between 1961 and 1963. I don't know the exact date Kennedy made this speech, but he was killed in 63. And the reason he was killed relates to that speech, and Trump has just not closed that loop. So I'm going to lean forward here. My eyes aren't great. I'm going to lean forward and try to read this quote to you if I can. So this is him just before he was assassinated. And then we'll talk about why he got assassinated and why we need to be very careful about what's happening with Trump right now. So here we go. I'm leaning forward. We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its spheres of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections. Remember, instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which is corrupted vast human and material resource, constricted. It is a system that has conscripted vast human and material resources into a building of listen to this, tightly knit, highly efficient machinery that combines the military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political, period. That is the definition of a dictatorship, a shadow government that rules the world, that puppets all the nations of the world, and not one single nation in the world is really sovereign, because we're puppeted by the people who control the money, and the money controls all the spheres of influence. Now, what did we learn last night? Well, NBC and ABC, if you can believe it, refused to air Trump's speech. What do you think of that, Michael?
Yeah, I think it's traitors. So they're people at their top, that are doing this. Did it back in 2020. Didn't put out the information correctly on many different things. COVID, the political election steal, and now again, Trump is trying to come out and inform everybody, and they're trying to stop him again. So their executives, the top people, they should be held accountable. I think they should be held accountable back in 2020 if they were different. I think they're treasonous. I think they should be held treasonous, and then anyone involved in their system should be held treasonous. And at the very minimum, I think we should start with basically kicking them off the air that we pay for. We, the American people, pay for this, all the airwaves, and they're using it for free. And they're using it to control and manipulate our minds. So they go away, I think.
Well, Trump sort of alluded to that last night. And then the last little box over there alludes to the swamp that he said he's going to drain. But you know what? I'm personally very happy that they didn't air it. I'm personally happy that the politicians are coming out now and talking about impeaching Trump, because they're outing them themselves. And look at that banner above that picture. Basically, he told us in no uncertain terms, China is our enemy. It's not Iran. It's not Russia. It's China. It's China, puppeted by the global financial elite and all the politicians in our government. If you can read the list of things down there, 18 states have basically been bought and paid for in order to collude with China to steal our elections. And then there's more coming, because we haven't even begun to talk about what's coming out of Venezuela, and we haven't been talking about what's going to come out of the other 71 other countries that have lost their elections due to theft. So there are some huge changes coming. Let's go on down and then chime in anytime you want. This is
unmasking democratic socialism. Hillary Clinton, I posted this on my ex. Hillary Clinton, was saying, we need to push back against Trump because Russia helped Trump. We need to find his taxes. So both of those were nothing burgers. Russia, there was no collusion. There was no election steal from Russia. Trump had his taxes shown, which was illegal the way they did it, but they were shown. Nothing burgers. And Hillary Clinton, when she was putting that out, said that we, the Democrat Party, we should get China to get involved because they have Russia. So let's get China involved. So here we are.
Absolutely. And for me personally, when I had my near-death experience in 1968, I've been waiting for this moment all that time. God said that I will keep you in the cleft of the rock, and all you'll do is study and prepare for decades until we're at the most critical tipping point in America's history. It's right now. Trump is just telling us. He's saying that this event right now with China being disclosed basically creates a situation that is more dangerous than when we were in a World War I, World War II, or 9/11. Whoever loses this battle, this is what Sun Tzu would call death ground, is going to control the geopolitical situation of the world for the next 100 years or more. So we can't afford to lose, and we're not going to lose, because you're going to see as we go through and we get some quotes from the Bible and from prophets that God is on our side. He's orchestrated all of this. He knew the end before the beginning. Comments, Michael, before we go on?
No, that's great.
Well, I do want to read that last line. Socialism is not the answer. It invariably leads to poverty and oppression. So let's take a real quick run back in history. And we had the Bolshevik Revolution that birthed communism in Russia. And then we had the Mao Revolution that birthed communism in China. And About 35 million people were killed in Russia. About 60-some million people were killed in China. And Kennedy, the man that we're talking about closing this loop, opening and closing this loop, said there's never been an instance in the world where communists came into a nation other than through coercion. Nobody willingly in their right mind chooses to live under communism, except maybe our youth that's been brainwashed, but it's our job to unbrainwash them. Shall we go on down, Michael? Comment if you got something to say, please.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, socialism has never worked, and I don't understand how people can believe that this time is going to be different. It's repeatedly over and over and over again. Venezuela is the latest example, and the people at the top become billionaires. So the people at the top love socialism, and they want to push us in socialism. They benefit.
Well, we get some things too. Remember when Russia fell? Remember, God says nations can be risen in a day and fall in a day. When you stood in line for an entire day to get a loaf of bread, I mean, look at that perk. We get a nice suntan standing out there waiting to get a loaf of bread or a pair of shoes. I mean, I'm sorry, but I got to be a little levity because this is heavy stuff.
I like it.
Here, I've been waiting since 2014 to talk about this slide and 3 others in this presentation. And people have been using this to badmouth Trump, and it really irritates me because they want everything to happen on their timeline, and they don't have the big picture. They don't do what you and I do. They don't go out and get hundreds of pieces of data and put it together so that they can see the puzzle and view everything from 60,000 foot down. So right now, in 2014, it's when this chain of prophecies coming. It's a strange July, catastrophic summer, cataclysmic summer. Well, is there anybody that's been paying any attention that could say that that's not happening? We've had the most severe weather we've ever seen. We've seen multiple earthquakes. We've seen volcanic eruptions. We've seen financial problems. We've seen the war back and forth and all the angst that's created. We've seen the world being an oil shortage and everything that creates. If that isn't a strange July and a cataclysmic summer, I don't know what is. I mean, it's there. It's right before your eyes. But down at the bottom, look at the second bullet point. God says that he will protect America through all of this. And he says, I have agents in their midst that will just destroy America's enemies. So what did Trump say? What did Mike Lindell said from the very beginning? We have it all. We have it all. So Trump has never got his day in court, but now he's going to get his day in the court of public opinion. And he did something that he learned because of what happened with Kennedy. Kennedy made the speech, but Kennedy didn't have an army of white hand behind him, and he didn't cover his butt by putting all the information out there. That's Trump's insurance policy. Yes. So now all people can just go out and find out. They can't call it a lie. They can't call it misinformation because it's all there. All you got to do is take the time to go get it. So let me stop and let you comment on that before we go on.
Yeah, and this is the difference. We have learned, from the past. Very unfortunate. President Kennedy was assassinated. But this is one of the main reasons why he was assassinated. He was exposing the deep state. He said he would take the CIA and break it into 1,000 pieces. And of course, they came after him. He didn't have the evidence readily available. So before he could reveal it, they killed him. So Trump revealed last night, and this morning, all the evidence is there. Tons of evidence. I'm sifting through it, and it's phenomenal. Wow. So go to whitehouse.gov and you can download all the information, guys. It's there.
Yep. That was a smart move on his part. Let's go to the next slide. And for those who maybe don't follow me, I need to give you a little hint to my background. I died in 1968. God sent me on a journey. He showed me then that I had to read the Bible from cover to cover, the Quran from cover to cover. And he said, when the time comes, when that critical point in history comes that I told you about, where I'm going to bring you out to deliver a message to open people's eyes and set them free, you will need to know that Iran is our mortal enemy, along with China, Iran. And even when this war is over, I want to bring out something. The regime may fall, the IRGC may fall, But nonetheless, we have to deal with something that started all the way back in the Bible with Abraham and with the orphan spirit and with Isaac and Ishmael. And basically, we have a situation where Europe is being attacked. America is being attacked by what? By an incursion of illegal Muslim immigrants who come into the nation, who have 4 wives, who each wife has 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and they're outbirthing the people in Europe in particular, and outbirthing is in America. But here's what else we got to watch for. We are going to think Iran is safe. It's over with. We now have to look domestically inside of our country, as does Europe, and understand that even though we're going to enter into a period of peace with the Islamic nations, with the Muslim nations, it'll be a situation where my enemy's enemy is my friend, because we have mutual things in common that are beneficial to us. But at the deep-seated core level, the idea is that Islam will rule the world. We have fought with them for 1,400 years to see who was going to rule the world. And so what they're doing, make no mistake, these immigrants who come in have nothing. They come in with a shirt on their back, and all of a sudden there are multi-million-dollar mosques popping up all over the United States, all over Europe, funded by the Muslim oil-rich nations in the Middle East, putting their clerics in, teaching radicalization, Islamic radicalization, and controlling the schools. And so we need to understand we have to back Donald Trump, because any nation that doesn't have a sovereign border, so we've got it closed, but now we got to get the infiltrators out. Any nation that doesn't have sovereign currency, any nation that doesn't have sovereign elections is not sovereign, and has no nation to be sovereign over. So we need to understand one threat. Very soon, Iran is going to fall. And God told us right here in the very beginning in Ezekiel, he said he knew this was coming. He knew that they would use oil in order to control the world. That's the lifeblood of the world. He said, I'll put a hook in their mouth. So I haven't had one night's loss of sleep over this, because I knew coming into it, Iran falls. We win. And when this is over, the Straits of Hormuz is no longer going to be able to control a significant amount of oil, because the Arab-rich nations are building pipelines, and America has entered into an agreement with Saudi Arabia and India to build a really important pipeline that goes from a transit system that goes by water from India to Saudi Arabia, across all the Arab nations, terminates in Israel, and then goes by sea onto Europe. And so at any rate, the bottom line is people can come to America to get oil. Iraq's going to get their oil, is going to be pumping like wildfire. Oil prices are going to go down. It's going to change the world, because now we're not going to be able to be controlled by oil pipelines by oil in the Strait of Hormuz, or for that matter, any of the other choke points over in the Asian environment. So comments on that before we go on.
No, I totally agree. They're beautiful people in the Muslim community, but I've spent nearly my entire career with the SEAL teams and the CIA at high levels in combat zones overseas, and the Muslim extremists completely control pretty much the Middle East, and Iran especially. Iran foments a lot of the terrorism throughout the Middle East. It's horrific. It's horrific beyond belief, and their beliefs and their way of life, unfortunately, do not align with ours in any way, shape, or form. And their intention, as they've said multiple times, is to overwhelm us and overcome our way of life and take over.
Few people in your audience have probably ever read the Quran. I read it cover to cover because it was an assignment from God. And it's almost like 2 books. If you're Islamic, it's a book of love and peace. It is, really is. But if you're an infidel, any religion other than Islam, you're an infidel. And it says what? You can lie to them. You can cheat them. You can kill them. And if you conquer them, you can make them subservient. They have to pay you taxes. You know that gold star that became so famous in World War II? You know where that originated from? From the Islamic world? That was to designate that you were not an Islamic person and you had to pay a serfdom's tax. So we need to understand, just because this war ends doesn't mean we don't have to keep our eye on Islam. So for those who who I can't believe people are saying Iran's winning. They're winning. And folks, the whole world is coming against them right now. You got the coalition that started out, the U.S. and Israel, and then now you've got the Arab nations that are joining in, and Kuwait and Bahrain actually sent their jet planes in to take out sites, just like the United States has. And now we've got the Kurds entering into it. And I can't say this for a fact, but we're now seeing IRGC people killed other than through missiles from the United States. There was a car accident that was pretty suspicious. There were a couple of people killed on the streets. I think the Kurds or the Iranian people themselves are now saying, you are our enemy, and wherever we see you, we are going to kill you. Let me stop at that, because with the military background you have, I want you to comment on that before we go any further.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in Iraq, which is right next to Iran, and all of the violence that we were seeing was coming from Iran. Of course, President Trump, took out their head general in a missile attack that was great. That guy killed a lot of my friends and probably 1 million plus people in Iraq. Now, Iraq, I think, with the Kurds is definitely involved in Iran. They hate Iran massively, passionately. So I remember working with those guys, Peshmerga. They're fantastic people, and those are the type of Muslims, I think, because they embrace every religion in their country, in their edge of northern Iraq. So they're fantastic. Now they're going to build a pipeline. They're talking about it down from Kurdistan, down a little bit into middle of Iran, and then across through Syria, which is now on the side of the United States, and out into the Mediterranean. They're going to build a pipeline, I think, from Oman across Saudi Arabia and Red Sea. They'll be able to take oil from there. So we're just going to, bypass the Straits of Hormuz. I think that's coming, but I think even Iran at some point is going to get, once they're cleansed, which is coming, they're going to start to pump oil like never before, and they're going to, go through the Strait of Hormuz and share with the world. But we're getting to that point, like you talk about, where resources are going to be an interesting factor. So I'm looking forward to us continuing on.
Militarily, I want to go back to something that you alluded to. My entire lifetime, we have been at, just like the Bible says, wars and rumors of wars. And we've had the Middle East in constant conflict, flare up, wars, terrorists. So with Iran basically being defanged as they lose their resources, now they're no longer able to fund the proxy. So all of the terrorism we see in the Middle East is going to die down. And now something that is coming out of this, Trump is beginning to make a move to say, we now really understand that our really number one enemy is China. And so what he's alluding to at this point is he's basically suggesting that the alliance of Israel, think of that, the little Satan, with the Muslim nations have enough military power that they don't need America's help. Once the Middle East is settled down, the war is over, the proxies have been taken out. And so he's going to go through the process of moving our military out of that region of the world, leaving it in their hands to take care of themselves. He's going to draw down forces in Europe, which he's already taken 8,000 forces out of Germany. We're going to look at a map at the end that's going to go into more detail on this, but he's going to bring those forces over to our hemisphere to keep America safe. And most importantly, all those ships that are over there now are going to be stationed in the Pacific so that we're in striking distance to China if anything ever happens. So there's a complete military realignment coming. But all of these people are all coming. NATO's coming into it. The IRGC leadership is being decapitated. The people of Iran, I want to make a statement on this. They are praying for America to keep this up and to win. They don't look any longer at America as being the enemy. They look at the RGC, who every time they protested because they didn't have water, because they didn't have food, because the living conditions were harsh, whoever organized those protests, they rounded them up and they killed them. And they say they're potentially as many as 50,000 Iranian citizens that have been killed by the horrible regime in Iraq. So they're seeing us truly as liberators, and we're not going to come in and we're not going to occupy and keep boots on the ground. We're going to let that nation take care of itself once everything stabilizes. So back to you from a military perspective, in case you disagree with what I'm saying.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, things are moving strategically. We're winning this war. Of course, yeah. Iran had 47 years to accumulate missile systems and so forth. I've heard from different sources they still have 70% of what they've accumulated. So yeah, we're gonna have to put boots on the ground. I've said that from the beginning. Once we start seeing boots on the ground, I think this is that's going to be the real turning point. And I think the groundwork is being set for that. The missile strikes that we're doing right now, all along the coast and so forth, of Iran is basically is setting up for the boots on the ground. So it's going to be, and it's not just going to be America. It's going to be all of those countries there in the Gulf region.
Well, let's investigate that just a little deeper. So I don't think it's going to be like in other wars where we're an army of invasion. No. I think that what's happening here, this war has two components to it. It's the kinetic war that has disabled them, taken away their military capabilities to a degree. Like you said, they still have a lot of missiles left. But now what's really going to bring them down is we're going back in history to an old-fashioned siege. And when you start taking out the oil in the straits and getting rid of the island, Karg Island, when you bomb the railroad line that connects Iran to China and to Russia, when you take out bridges, when you take out their back door for their black markets, when you leave them economically where they're just absolutely decimated, now they have a surrender, a real surrender, and they bring us in and we come in, and it's not coming in guns a-blazing, it's coming in to a nation that has submitted to us. It would be much like what happened when we went into Japan after World War II. And you probably remember, what was the general, was it MacArthur who was put in charge of taking over Japan after they surrendered? I think it was.
I think it was, yeah. MacArthur
went back anyway, look at the strategy that he implemented. He made the leader of Japan tell the people that he wasn't a god, and he came in and he didn't use hard tactics. He basically he's a soft hand. If we go in and we do this right and we support the people, this is not going to be an ongoing bloodbath like what happened in Iraq. This is just going to be a surrender and an economic conversion. So comments before we go on, because I really respect your opinion when it comes to the military. You know about 10,000 times more than I do.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see the surrender. And Juan O'Saven was on my show night before last, and he said that one of the reasons Iran is holding out is because they want to hold on to the yellow cake for making the nukes. They got that from Russia. Russia got it from Hillary and Obama in Uranium One deal. So they're trying to hold out the very last, so they protect them, because once that yellow cakes, we look at that yellow cake, we're going to know exactly where it came from, and that'll destroy them.
Yeah. Well, let's delve into that just a little bit. Now, once we get past this, then we're going to go a lot faster. But I wanted to stop on this and dissect the military component. I think there's one off-ramp for Iran, and here's what it is. The IRGC has to understand that every nation in the world now, the coalition all over the world, is against them. And China said it, Russia said it, NATO said it. You cannot have a nuclear weapon, period. That's an absolute given, and you're not going to control and cause a toll to be paid for ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That's absolutely unnegotiable terms. But there is a way that they can have an off-ramp. The IRGC is made up of two branches. One is the military component that justifies itself based on the hatred of America in Israel, but the other is that they control somewhere between 30 and 40% of the total economy. And the Arab nations are looking to do something like we did with the Marshall Plan. They're saying, we'll give you $320 billion. America's saying, we'll take the sanctions off. We'll unlock your money. We'll help you rebuild your infrastructure. If the IRGC accepts that olive branch, then what's going to happen is, just like after World War II, we came in and the Black Rocks of the world rebuilt the very nations that we destroyed with the bombs, right? The IRGC has a huge construction component, and they would have an economic viability because they'd be the ones most likely to be in the position to rebuild the infrastructure. So they could have a viability of a sort, but it's not going to be the military stranglehold that they have on the world right now. Comments on this, and then let's go on and get out of the military conversation.
Absolutely right. It's all about economics. So if a country is wealthy, they don't go to war. So that's what we did with Germany, well, Europe, and with Japan. We made them economically wealthy. We rebuilt them, and we didn't have any. We don't have problems with them now. So that's same things happening with Vietnam. Same thing is going to happen with Iran. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And we've got some people saying that. But Donald Trump, for one, Donald Trump's been saying over and over again, we have to have economic parity between every nation in the world.
Yes.
And we have to stop Western hegemony, and we have to help the Southern Hemisphere within our hemisphere to have economic parity. And you can go all the way back to Eisenhower, who was, remember, a general before he was president. And what did he say? He said the central cause of war, is there any man, any woman, any child who does not understand that the central cause of war is lack of economic parity between nations? So that's the number one of the changes that's going to happen. The first world nations, their currencies are going to devalue. The third world nations, their currencies are going to appreciate. We're going to meet in the middle at relative parity, and we are going to be responsible for doing something that has been denied them for centuries. We are going to be helping them develop their infrastructure so that they're not forced to remain in poverty because they sell us their natural resources as raw materials. They're going to actually be competitors. They're going to get the opportunity to participate in the economic wealth of the world. And what you're going to see, we'll get into this in a later slide, is we're going to see that all the Southern Hemisphere is going to have an unbelievable economic boom. So let's stay on that middle slide there. And now we're going back to the Bible again. And so God had me spend months in the book of Revelation, studying it, tearing apart, looking at the combination beasts, looking at Daniel and the prophecies. And there's a whole lot of prophecy right there on that page. One of the things it talked about was that the time would come towards the end. We're not quite there yet, but that invading forces coming down, and I believe it would be over not oil but water, would walk across the Euphrates. And so now that gives us an understanding of look at that picture up above and the one below, and you can see the dramatic change. Yeah. But now we have to look at something that says there's more going on than just nature. We have to look over, and we have to look at the Bible and look at some of the prophecies, and we have to look at Turkey, and we have to look at Russia, and we say, how are they going to play in the Middle East in the future? So let's dissect that before we get out of this graphic. Turkey's supposed to be, and possibly Russia, along that coalition that comes down to attack Israel in the future. But right now, Turkey is setting the stage that could literally lead to water wars. They have dammed the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, causing terrible economic hardship on Syria, on Iraq, and in all the nations that are in what was at one time the cradle of civilization. And so all of that water coming, they said, Turkey says, well, it emanates from the mountains in our land, and so they've cut it off. And that is a critical crisis in the Middle East that's going to lead to these changes that I was referring to in the very first slide when I talked about resources are going to be a very important geopolitical control mechanism in the future. Now let's go to Russia, and I think people are going to be surprised with what I'm about to say. The Bible says that lower picture depicts it as it is depicted in the combination beast, where it's got ribs in its mouth and it goes out and devours much flesh. But it also says that it is the sleeping bear. And I believe what's happening right now is Russia, Mother Russia, fell within a matter of days over an economic crisis with the ruble. And I think that now what's happening with this war in Ukraine is both Ukraine and Russia have been severely economically damaged. And I think that, along with what's happening in the tundra with the permafrost melting and the cost that's associated with maintaining all of the infrastructure that goes across Siberia, Russia's about to fall economically. People have been leaving. The troops there's 100,000 troops that are trapped. That war is going to end. And then I think what we're going to find is the bear is going to go back to sleep for a while. And then we need to understand something from history. I think Russia is going to become our friend, and we're not going to be fighting Russia for some period of time. And Russia is going to be one of the nations that maybe helps save the world as we go through these resource crises. Because if you're in the northern hemisphere, up by the Arctic Circle, as global changes happen, Siberia is going to become one of the major grain baskets of the world. And because of all the ice and the glaciers, they have water. Same thing with Canada. So Canada and Siberia / Russia are going to feed the world in the future as we go through this resource change. And what we need to understand about Russia is Russia forever has been against globalism. Russia came in and warned England in World War II, if you go in on the side of the South, we're coming in on the side of the North. And they were the ones who obstructed the formation of the European Union, the UN, the first time they tried to get it. And so Russia is, most people don't know, it's a Christian nation, and it is a nation that is aligned with Trump in this regard. They are against globalism. So again, it's the same old story. There's no real friends in geopolitics. There's just alliances. And when it comes to Russia and the United States at this moment in time, my enemy's enemy is my friend. I don't think we have to worry about Russia for the time being. We need to be focusing on China. But now that bottom part down there, then I'll go to the next slide. I'm sorry, but you want to comment on that before I go on, because maybe you have a different opinion.
Yeah, and that brings up your point on the first slide. It's Russia has more resources than any country in the world by far. All of the top resources are in Russia. So the water, like you're talking about, and the food, Canada, Russia, both of those areas are going to be very important going forward.
Yeah, and let's look at what you just said about the resources. They've got them, but the problem is because of the harsh climate in Siberia, they're not accessible. But if we have the pole shift that's predicted, and as we have climate change, now those resources are going to be readily available. And the people of Russia, here's what always happens. When a nation is kept in suppression and slavery for a long time, the people come out and they've got a softened heart. The Russian people, again, are not our enemy. It's communism. And when communism falls, we're going to see Russia is going to put out a helping hand to the world. And now we can jump over later and talk about what has to happen in our hemisphere between Canada and us. That's very important as well. But let's look at this prophecy again from Kim Clement, all the way back to June 14th in 2014. And I'm not going to read it. He's basically saying there's going to be a lot of political changes changing. And what I think you're going to see is the time we get to the presidential election in 2028, either the Democratic Party won't even exist or it will be unrecognizable. Yep. The Republican Party will have been conveniently purged of all the rhinos and will look a lot different. And then we're probably going to go back to our history and we're going to understand that our founding fathers actually told us that a two-party system was not the best system. So I think we're probably going to have the formation of one or more completely new political parties, just like is the case in many other countries of the world. So let me stop and let you comment on that before we go on down.
Yeah, we've seen, like President Trump, he bounced back and forth, Democrat, Republican. But he really came out of nowhere. He's never really any political party. And I've talked to several people that, no background in politics, but have incredible, insights and so forth. Rachel Rodriguez, who is in Florida. I just had her on. She would be a fantastic governor of Florida. Absolutely fantastic, no question about it. But getting those people with the best ideas and getting them to the top is going to be what because it was always supposed to be like that. Like Abraham Lincoln, he was, grew up he was poor in a log cabin, and he went to the very top. That's the way it was always supposed to be. So anyone could make it all the way to the president. It's very hard these days for anyone to make it in the political party. So I think the political parties, like you're talking about, especially the party of the jackasses, I think that party is done. I've said that party is going to go bye-bye for a while, and there's no way they survive going forward after what they've done.
I agree. I absolutely agree. So we're going to have massive political change, and it's going to create a forced unity. If you've got four parties, you got to get a coalition. You've got to cooperate. And then the other thing that's coming down that changes this current scenario, where you said you can't rise anymore from abject poverty into to power. Well, the global financial elite system is going to be torn apart. We're going to deglobalize, and that takes the power away. And when we get control of the purse strings and take it away from the global financial elite, away from the UN, away from the World Bank, which then means we've taken it away from all the spheres of influence, it means that we have control over the lying politicians, over the news media, the fake news, as Trump would say, over the banking system, over all the spheres of influence. Now, if we, the Christian conservatives, can groom people to step in. We have the opportunity, according to our Constitution, to have a special election. We have 120 days to put it together, put a slate together. If we can put people in, now we can change the whole economic system, the whole political system of the world. And now let's go back to something you were alluding to, because you alluded to Lincoln. And Lincoln, it's amazing how these people see these things, years, decades, hundreds of years ahead of time. And Lincoln said, I fear for our great nation, because I see the formation and the coalition between banks and corporations that will lead to corruption, that will control our great nation. That's what has to be undone. That's what's going to be undone. And we're going to become a nation that is no longer divided, but because of mutual need, because of all the resource constraints we're going to have, we're going to change the entire world. There's going to be an exodus from the big cities, because now we have the technology that allows it, where you and I are in totally different states here, halfway across the country, and we're doing a show together. So basically, for 250 years, there's been a migration path from the country to the city. Now it's going to be from the city to the country, and that is absolutely going to change the entire dynamics of the culture of this nation and nations around the world. So comments on that before we go on down.
No, it's definitely a movement that's coming. We're going to see it. It's happening. It's beautiful.
Well, you were talking about the nation of the jackass the party of the jackass going. Well, the Social Democrat Party, the Communist Party, ain't got a prayer. It's not got a prayer. And I don't know who's going to fill that purple box over there, but I believe there'll be one or two, or maybe even as many as three fledgling parties that try to be formed. And so we'll see what happens. So let's go on down. That's just a speculation on my part. And now we're going to look at something that I think really encapsulates what Trump has just done. There are some things happening that says this lower box down here, this is a Republican red wave, overwhelming Republican congressional majority. Is that even possible? Well, I think that there's 11 Democrats who are not going to be running. Maybe they are old, or maybe they were forced out, but those are seats that we could possibly get. And then we just got a decision from the Supreme Court that says you cannot redistrict based on primarily race. And so that makes 20 additional districts that we could win. Now, that'd be 31 seats. We're not going to get 31, but I do believe that what I'm depicting here is going to happen. I believe we're going to come into the midterms, if we have them, or in the presidential election, and we're going to have an overwhelming victory. So whatever they have blocked, whatever it is that we need to get through to make America great, we're going to be able to force it through. So comments before I go on to those other two boxes on that slide.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the different parties. The one that really stands out to give us some satisfaction is the Republican Party, but minus the rhinos. So I agree that that's going to happen. Will we still have a Republican Party going forward? I don't think so. I think the parties, like you were talking about, the two-party system, we were warned that wouldn't work, and so maybe it completely goes away. I don't know. Maybe it reforms itself. But definitely the Democrat Party will absolutely go away completely.
I agree. And then we go into these other two boxes, and they're important. So now, politically, with what is happening with the world's eyes being open, no, stay in that slide. I'm just moving over to the boxes on the side. So now we get the momentum where Trump is going to be able to force through whatever policies, whatever agenda he needs to make America great. So now let's stop and let's look at what the overarching conversation was in that presentation last night. You cannot have a sovereign government if you don't have sovereign borders, if you don't have sovereign currency, and most importantly, if you don't have sovereign elections. And so now let's look at what's going to happen to the Save America Act. It's already gotten through the House, but now the obstacle is the Senate. But now, this is just my opinion, I think if I'm in any political party with what's coming out, with the proof that Trump has given, that if I ever want to hold office, I better not vote against that bill. It's absolutely been laid out for the people, and I think it's going to be suicide to vote against it. But let's say there are some who do, and the Democrats hold the line. We already have the 51 votes we need in order to get the Save America Act through. All we have to do is we have to put a budgeting component in it so it can be brought through under reconciliation with 51 votes. I think we're going to get the Save America Act. So let's stop there and let you comment and see if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, it's a hit or miss, but you're right. If whoever votes against it is dead politically, but will it pass? Because some of those people that have pushed it aside and tried to suppress it, they're probably dead either way. They're dead literally if they vote for it, and they're probably dead politically for voting for it. So it's until we get to the point where we can protect people to do the right thing, because the deep state is very, very dangerous. It's going to be a tough go. But me and many other people, I do a military roundtable. All of us in a military roundtable think there's going to be an executive order, and we're going to push the election into next year. But I'm absolutely open. I would love to see it happen, but we'll have to see, how it goes. And by them, voting against it or not voting for it, and it not going forward, that's just more impetus for Trump to do the executive order, which I think is on the horizon.
Yep. So you went exactly where I wanted to go. I wanted to position this in the middle, and I want to say there's more than one path. So we might get through reconciliation. We might have to do the EBS. We might have to have martial law. We might get that overwhelming majority through the midterms if we do have a midterm, and then we can force it and we can vote it in. But I believe one way or the other, God has ordained that America is his covenant nation, and we are going to get sovereignty, meaning borders, meaning currency, and meaning elections. It's going to happen. And if we go to that very last box, sovereign elections, borders, and currency, that's what it's all about. That's what constitutes a sovereign government. And that is what Trump is pushing for. That's the Make America Great program. And I want people to understand that that is the biggest crisis we ever face. If we don't win what you see on that slide, then we're going to go into dictatorship. But I don't think that's going to happen. Comments before we go on down?
No, that's good. I agree.
I'm going to bring another topic into it that a lot of people aren't looking at: the socialist democratic debt trap. And so what do? They just always say the simplest, most stupid things. They say, we want to tax the rich. And so now I'm just gonna go off script here, and I'm gonna give you a little common sense scenario, and I'm going to ask your audience to think about answering a couple of questions that I'm going to lay down before them. So how did we get into this debt trap that we're in right now? We got into it because of fiat currency. Every dollar printed created a debt, and we got into it because we had progressive tax, so that we finally got to the point that even federal income tax wasn't enough to pay the national debt, so we had to invent new taxes, and then that wasn't enough, so we had to raise those taxes. So that's the progressive tax system that has taken America to a point of being in $39 trillion in debt. So here's my question. If taxes created the problem that is about to collapse America, how is it that putting more taxes in is going to solve it? I think that's an oxymoron.
Yeah, totally.
So now let's break it down even further. And then we're going to get into that slide below. So now, if that's the case and that's an oxymoron, no, let's skip that. I'm going to get to it when we get to the slide. Let's go down to the next slide. This is what we need to understand going forward. This is how they enslave us, exposing the globalist agenda. So now as we come out of this slide and one at the end is going to show the entire world what the globalist agenda is. They drive us into perpetual wars, and that bankrupts us. That forces us into a central bank, which imposes money laundering and fiat currency. That leads to the buying of power, which leads to election fraud, which is where we're at right now. That leads to political corruption. That leads to illegal immigration, because they now control everybody, and they bring the illegal immigrants in order to drive us even faster into financial collapse. And the fiat currency debt trap is triggered, and the gutting of the U.S. manufacturing then took America, the strongest nation in the world, ceded power from it over to China. And that happened under Carter, a corrupt politician, one of many, most of the presidents of my lifetime have been corrupted. And Carter was given the assignment to create a new economic system, a super capitalist communist economy, with the innovation of capitalism and the control of communism. And that's where they ceded the power from the United States, and all the money started going to China. All your financial advisors said, you need to invest in high growth, which means you need to invest in China. So the irony of all of that is we, the American people, provided the money to basically grow China into the adversary that we have. Well, now the whole process is going full circle and coming back, and we've got a commitment of $18 trillion from nations all over the world to rebuild American manufacturing. And we just had something unheard of that's kind of beginning to be whispered about. Instead of charging a toll for ships going through the Strait of Hormuz to cover our expenses for having a military there, there's been an overture made by the oil-rich nations who says, that petrodollar deal we had was pretty good for both of us. Why don't, instead of you charging that toll or that tariff or whatever you want to call it, why don't you let us add to that stockpile of $18 trillion you have, and we'll invest trillions in America and build your infrastructure, and we'll invest in your technology, and we'll help America grow, because we believe America is the future. So that's something that I think is coming. So let's go down to two boxes on there. I want to go over to the one on the right in the blue, and I want to ask you people to think about this. Is it really even feasible if the global financial elite control the banks, control the money, and who controls the money controls the world? No, stay on that slide. I'm in the blue box over to the right. Is it even feasible that you're going to take a substantial amount of money away from the global elite? They've not given it to you before. But let's say you get a few dollars, and now that's supposed to save you because you're going to tax the rich in order to take you out of the poverty that you're in. Well, don't forget that little bit of money you got now has to be split amongst 300 million Americans. You're looking at dribs and drabs coming in. You're looking at absolutely nothing but a lie. And so let's go down to the bottom. We need to grow ourselves out of this. We need to do exactly the opposite of what happened when Carter ceded power from us to China. And now, with the help of all those other nations and the help of the money from the oil-rich nations, America, Trump's plan is to grow rapidly America out of this economic crisis. That's why when he first came in, the first thing he did with the Chevron deal, so that we get access to 5,915 patents, and we develop the greatest technological revolution the world has ever seen. And we do just what we did following the Civil War, when we developed the Industrial Revolution and shared that technology with the world. On restored, financially solvent America now becomes the technological leader of the world and shares that technology with the world. And that economic parity we talked about occurs because now all nations have economic parity, because the wealthy nations have the technology and they share it with the lower nations. And then those nations have their currencies go up because we get off the fiat system, and they have some of the biggest harvest of natural resources in the world in South America and in Africa and so forth. So we're looking at economic parity leading to a period of disruption because of all of these weather changes and all these resource constraints, but ultimately coming out of it, a United Nations of America and united world. So let's let you comment before we go on down to the next one. And I'm just going to keep making it look like it's so crazy to believe in communism and socialism that's not even funny. Comments before we go on?
Yeah, I know a lot of billionaires. They're fantastic people. They want America to succeed. They're giving as much of their money as they can, but they know that there are evil types that are billionaires as well. So it's a fight all the way up to the top, and it's again, it's this parallel government that tries to take the good people that create wealth and that are motivation for us to excel. Poor people don't give you a job. Somebody said that in the comments. That was brilliant. And they don't, like Trump. They never were able to fix. I guess there was a skating rink in Central Park, and the Democrats were never able to fix it. He basically did his own money. He says, I'll do it for $1 million or whatever it was. And I think they'd spent like $22 million already trying to fix it. It was still a joke, not fixed. So he went in and, made it happen. And Lee Iacocca and President Trump and some others basically got the Statue of Liberty fixed up. And so that doesn't come from poor people. That comes from people that know how to make things to accomplish and make things happen. We want those people to succeed because they give us opportunities, but we want the ones that are trying to communistically control us to be, kept out of the system. So that's really where this is going.
Let me chime in on what you just said. You brought up some really important things, Mike. So the difference between a good billionaire and a bad billionaire is what you're talking about. So it's a power structure. So here's what we need to look at. This is why the global financial elite tried 3 times to get the UN, because the UN is now controls the bank. The World Bank's there. The U.S. aid is there. The IMF is there. It's a banking institution with all kinds of peripheral global governance entities around it. So let's look at what Trump is doing to that control center. That's gonna defang the bad billionaires because they control all of those entities. So the first thing he did is he came in and he says, USA, that's a money laundering. It's gone. Went to the World Health and says, we know what they did to us. We're out of that. He went to Europe and he said, Europe, you were not a good partner. And if you don't shape up, the United States is going to leave NATO and you're going to be in deep donkey dong. And then with what's happened with the financial shift, the World Bank is going to fall because Trump is saying we're going to go from the Internal Revenue Service to the External Revenue Service, which basically guts the whole global network of central banks and takes away the control of money. So now if they don't have those control mechanisms, and the World Bank's gone, the IMF's gone, USAID gone, US Health gone, World Trade Organization significantly modified, and all of that is being morphed because of what Trump is doing with the Board of Peace that is, in my mind, going to eventually replace the UN. Now we've taken control away from the bad billionaires so that they can't control the sphere of influence. And now let's look at just a couple of good billionaires. Look at what Elon Musk has done for us. And then let's go over, I can't remember his name right this second, but the co-founder of Google. And he's over in California, as was Musk. And now California is looking at a taxing program that's even worse than taxing your income. They're saying we want a one-time tax, 5% of your total wealth. So no surprise, the founder of Google just moved to Florida, and they say there's 15 billionaires in California that account for almost 70% of the tax base of the state. So you think that those people are not going to be in real trouble if they get that tax bill passed? Those people are not stupid. They're going to leave, and what's going to happen is it's going to fall to the poor taxpayers to basically try to fund the social services network and to try to float that government. So it isn't going to work. All we got to do is take the control mechanisms away from the global government, and then we can look at the individual rich guys, and we can look at the things that we've done in the past with what's the word I want? What do you call it? Help me, Michael. When you've got a monopoly, I can't remember the word. But anyway, we can keep